logos, all the numbers, all that. So don't take any of it for gospel. This is just a way for us to get you playing the game, get familiar with the basic rules, and we're going to try to get you into free play as quick as possible. Now, before we do that, I'm going to explain a couple basic things, and then we're going to run you through 3 basic activations, aka turns each, that are going to teach them the basic things, and then we're going to let you loose, and our staff is going to be walking around answering any questions you might have. So, first things first, Gundam Assemble generally revolves around the timeline system. If you notice, the big, it kind of looks like an RPG turn gauge on the side of the map, the red and the blue side. You see little round tokens in there. That is your timeline. Now, each activation, you can do a number of things. One of those things is called a primary action. Those primary actions will cost timeline. When you pay that timeline cost, you slide the timeline token on the timeline track up the amount that it costs, and that determines when the unit will be able to next act. So keep that in mind as we go forward. Just to go kind of over more of the basics of what an activation is, you also get an advance, which is your basic move action. You can move your unit up to 3 hexes. Terrain impact set, moving up a piece of terrain costs 1 extra movement. Moving down terrain doesn't change anything, don't worry about it. There's other things you can do. If you look at your unit cards, you have weapons on there, you have unit abilities as well. Some of them cost energy. That's the little yellow thing there. We'll talk about gaining energy later. And we'll talk about weapons and how we do attack rolls later and everything. One last thing before we jump into it. There are also 3 other primary activations besides attacking. There's also a dashing, which lets you move to at the cost of 2 timeline. There's rescuing a garrison, which we'll go over later, but that also costs 2 timeline. And there is also energize, which gives you an energy token. You can see a couple energy tokens out there on the map. You can pick them up too, but you can also use one of your primary actions to just get one. So, everybody ready to get started?
Yeah.
All right. I would very much appreciate if you follow my instructions closely, or you do the rest of get lost. If you do get lost, don't worry about it too much. We've got staff that can help you catch up. Just raise your hand and let us know. Now, if you look at your timeline and look at the rounds, the lowest round that we've started a unit on is round 4. Now, normally, you would start your units a little bit earlier on the timeline. If you look at your unit cards, you've got a timeline cost up in the upper left there. If you see those 3 numbers, you've got the HP of the unit, you've got the victory points, that's how much your opponent gets when they defeat that unit, and then you've got the starting timeline. Normally you'd start there. We've got everything a little bit in progress here because we want to get you to the end of the first phase. A game of Gundam Assemble is usually played over 2 phases. At the end of the second phase, whoever has the most victory points wins the game. It's as simple as that. When you get to the end of a phase, if whatever you're doing would cause a timeline token to be passing the track, you just keep counting from the beginning of the track again. That tells you when that will start in phase 2. Okay. So, it's time to get started. And of course, who's faster than the red comet, right? So that's why Sharazaku 2 goes first. What I'm going to have our Xeon players do is pick up that Sharazaku 2 unit and move it 3 hexes directly forward to land in front of the unsuspecting gun tank. Now you'll notice, as you move your 3 hexes forward and drop that Sharazaku 2 in front of the gun tank, you are moving over a gap. That's a special kind of advancing called jumping. If you start on elevated terrain, you can move over things like enemy garrisons and enemy units without any sort of terrain penalty or anything. Normally you can't move through those, but if you're jumping, you can fly over them. So, as Shar, I would imagine, and most of your boys have settled nice and calm in front of the gun tank, it is time to attack with your primary action. You're going to choose the attack action, and you're going to look at your unit card for the Sharazaku 2 and do the Heat Hawk. Everybody find the Heat Hawk weapon on your Sharazaku 2 unit card.
Oh, I see.
Everybody see it there? On the unit cards are the 3 big ones. On the, it's going to be either the right or left of you, depending on what side of the table you're sitting on. But if you're going to see it, everyone find the Heat Hawk? See, some people have. All right, well, if you notice, the weapons on your unit cards have 3 numbers up at the top of that deck. The first is going to be the timeline cost. That's how much you're going to move your timeline token up the track when you do that. We're going to go ahead and do that right now. Because when you choose your primary action, the first thing you want to do is pay your timeline cost. That helps keep track of where everything is. You don't have to be like, oh, did I forget to move it? Or whose turns is it? All that kind of stuff. So we're using the Heat Hawk attack, so we're moving up the timeline with the Sharizaku 2 timeline token. Now the number right to the right, the timeline cost is range. The range for the Heat Hawk, which is his max, is 1. So you need to be adjacent to an enemy to use it. You are. There's also things like line of sight. You don't need to worry about that right now. I'm kind of sure Sean can see the gun tank at this point. So we're going to move on to our actual dice rolling. You can see that the Heat Hawk has a strength of 3. The strength of the attack is how many dice you're going to roll when you're going to determine damage, critical hits, all that kind of stuff. So go ahead and, if you've got dice in your dice tray, just empty them. And then go ahead and roll 3 d10s in the dice tray, and we'll see what you get. All the dice rolling in the game is based on d10s. There's accuracy modifiers that can come into play sometimes. So we need a bigger number range to accommodate all that. Now, 9s and 10s are critical hits. Anything 4 or above is a hit. So, did anybody get a critical hit? Anyone? No. Hey, all right, you did it. So every weapon also has a critical hit effect as well. So we're going to get to that in a second. But first, we're going to tally up the damage. So critical hits and regular hits do the same amount. It's 1 damage for each hit. So let's tally that up really quick first. And however much damage you did, put that many damage tokens on the Guntank's unit card. The damage tokens are the little 1s, 5s, and 10s. In this case, you grab the itty bitty ones and put however many did in damage on the Guntank's unit card. So
I've done 1 damage to you because I only had 1 hit.
And then my unit.
3 hits total.
Right there.
So you got 3 damage on the Guntank's unit card. There you go. Everybody got the damage on the Guntank? Did anyone not roll any damage on the Guntank? No? Okay, good. Saves me the trouble of making fun of that. Alright, so critical hit effects. Let's go back and look at the Heat Hawk weapon again on that unit card. Now, every weapon has a critical hit effect. Some weapons just have effects that happen whenever you use the weapon. So in this case, we got the critical hit effect of if you've crit, you get to put a fracture status effect token on the Guntank. There's various negative status effects that occur. And so fracture is the one that looks like a little shield with a crack in it. It's kind of a downward facing triangle, basically. Now what that means is the next time the Guntank would take 3 or more damage from an attack, it takes an additional 3 damage as the fracture explodes. When that happens, the fracture token goes away. So just keep that in mind next time that Guntank takes damage. So we've moved, we've done our primary action, and now that is going to be the end of the activation for Sharizaku 2. So time to move on to the Federation side. If you look at your